What's going on, everybody? I'm going to make a quick video for you guys showing you something that is a relatively easy install. There's not much work to go along with it, but there are some moments where you have to think about it for a second. And what that is, it's going to be our Team Z seat bracket install for Kirky style seats. Now, I mean, you're probably like, well, you know, how hard can it get? You just bolt it to the floor, you bolt it to the seat, bolt the seat down. For the most part, that's what you're going to do. But on your driver's seat, it's got to be fine-tuned. You got to get it to where you're comfortable in the car. Much easier with two people. It's kind of a pain in the butt with one person, and it's not hard, but it's trial and error. You're going to have to bolt it down, stick it in the car, see if you're comfortable. If you're not, take it out, move it, and repeat the process until you're comfortable. Team Z sent me these seat brackets. These are the low-profile seat brackets. I've said to you guys a bunch of times before, I don't like sitting up high in the car. I'd rather sit on the floor, away from the cage. And especially with some of you guys who have like S&W cages and, you know, other brand cages that aren't as snugly fit to the body, you don't want to be, you know, you don't want your helmet sitting on the cage while you're driving this thing, and maybe your helmet above the cage, because then that defeats the whole purpose of the cage. My cage is a custom cage. It's very tightly done to the car, so I'm very lucky with that. But street driving, I want to be as far away from that bar as I can. I don't want there to be any chance of having an accident and smashing my head on the bar. They also make a normal height seat bracket. They do, for you guys that don't like that, or the guys who are super short. I'm not that tall. I'm only 5'10", and I still went with the low pros. But they do offer the other style, if that's what you prefer. If you don't have a cage in your car, but if you don't have a cage in your car, you shouldn't be putting a Kirky in your car to begin with, because Kirky's aluminum seats are supposed to have 5 mounting points. This is only 4. The 5th one is supposed to be behind your back, and it's supposed to have a mount to the cage to hold the back of the seat. If you don't, again, it's aluminum seat. You launch that car enough times, it's eventually just going to wear these holes out and eventually tear the seat. I know I've had a couple of friends who have wrecked their cars on the track, high speeds, 160 plus, and their seats have torn loose from the base, and they've gotten pretty injured because of that. I'm not even a really big fan of Kirky seats. I don't like them, but I have them. I'm going to use them until I can save up for a set of Sparcos or a set of Race Tech Street version seats they have. One of those natures. It's just got more padding. You know, you're sitting on an aluminum seat with a 1/4 inch of padding between you and metal. But some people just don't care, and they'll run them anyway. I'm going to run them. So, like I said, these are the low pros. They're very, very nicely cut out. This is the base, obviously, and these are the sides that bolt to your seat. They're super slick pieces. You can see how thick they are. They're nicely done. Very nicely done pieces. And it's going to make your life so simple. My driver's seat was on a custom bracket. I made a custom bracket off my subframe connectors to bolt it down, and it was a lot of work, a lot of welding. It was a pain in the ass. So this will make your life a lot easier, and they're not terribly expensive at all. I planned on buying these seat brackets. Period. I had Racecraft, sold those because I don't like them. Okay, we're gonna do the passenger side first, just because it's simpler. My opinion, just put the seat all the way back as far as you can to your cage. There's no reason to have the seat up, because there's no back seat. You're not moving it. So I'm just going to mount it as far back as I possibly can. Now, I have a problem already with these seat mounts. I got through floor subframe connectors. And if you know what those are, it's your subframe connectors come up halfway through the floor, and the floors are welded to them. It's stronger, it gives you a little bit more ground clearance and all that. Well, the problem is, see this right here? This is meant to sit across the back of the floor, flush on the floor. Well, it can't do that with the subframe connector. I know it's kind of hard to see with the carpet and the center console in the way, but what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to cut your brand new seat mount. If you don't have through floors, skip this step. You're not going to need it. But I'm going to have to cut the through floors. Now, is this something I wanted to do? No, I didn't want to cut these beautiful brackets. I thought about cutting this piece out and taking another strip of aluminum and rounding it over and welding it back together, but there's just really no point. Most seat brackets are 2 pieces anyway. This is nice that it's 1 piece. It just makes it easier to install, but it's not, it's not necessary. I'm gonna cut this seat bracket. So you got these uppers that are pretty well slotted in the lowers, and I'm gonna push these all the way in, so the seat's closer inside the car, so it's not up against the cage, because 90% of the time it's going to be my wife in the passenger seat, and I don't want to put her in any more danger than needed. So I push that over as far as I can. I'm going to find my bolts here. I thought they were right here. I'm going to push those over as far as I can. Square this thing up a little bit, and I'm just going to mark where the subframe connectors come up. It's a little bit wider because of the carpet, but I gotta have a carpet. Okay, went over to my bandsaw real quick, that Harbor Freight one I showed you, and cut that out. Seconds. You gotta love that thing. That thing is worth every penny so far. So I've cut that out, and I mean, it's definitely less rigid, but it's still pretty goddamn rigid. I'm actually surprised on how rigid it is. Probably has to do with how thick it is, but make sure that fits down to the floor now. Helps put it on the brackets. Yep. Okay, so I'm having a little bit of a problem with mine lining up the rear holes. Now, I have a feeling, and it's literally like centimeters on lining up. The problem is I can't angle the back bolt the way it's supposed to be. And the problem, I think, I can't tell, I think it's because of the carpet is in the way. What I'm going to try to do, is, and this is probably from them cutting my floors apart to do the subframe connectors, because I mean they cut a huge section out of floors, and it probably moves a little bit with being welded. I'm just going to open this up a touch. I mean, literally, I barely have to touch it. I'll probably do it with my burr bit, my deburring bit, and I could see where it's heading. I mean, just a touch. Okay, when you get your side bracket here, the taller part is going to be towards the back. That gives you adjustability with the layback on your seat. A lot of the Kirky seats have a 15-degree layback. Some have more, some have 0. I think mine have 15. So I want mine slightly laid back, but not much. So you can't get to the rear bolts on these low pros because they are on the floor. So what we'll do is we'll get a front bolt in. This hole looks like it's going to work. What I'll do is I'll pull it wide, get some hardware. Some grade 8 hardware is preferred just for safety reasons. So I have a Kirky This is a Kirky Pro Street drag seat. 17-inch wide. I'm a little bit of a bigger guy. I think I have a 17 or 18-inch for my driver's side. I went a little bit bigger on the driver's side. Well, that seat's from my old car, my Integra. And I bought it an inch bigger so I would be comfortable in a full fire suit. If you don't plan on wearing like a 15 or a 20 suit, you won't have that issue, but I'm gonna be on ethanol, and ethanol requires, NHRA requires any alcohol fuel to be in at least a 15A suit. It's expensive. That fire suit's like $1,000 from ProFox, but you don't want to be in a 5-layer and catch on fire. I'd be lying to you if you didn't have to keep tweaking these a couple of times to get it to fit right. This is something that requires that. You're not going to get it right on the first shot and be done with it unless you just don't care where the seat ends up and you just bolt it all together and slam it in. Piece of advice: Kirky seats are not supposed to be mounted on the bottom. They're supposed to be side mounted. When you mount them on the bottom, you get that rocking, and that's how you can tear a seat. Side load won't be nearly as treacherous as the bottom would be. So you always want to side mount a Kirky. That's the way it should be done. Now the seat's in. I mean, it's loose as crap. You want to set your angle. Mine's pretty much where I want it. I just gotta level it. Like I said, I don't want it lean back like I'm riding in a Cadillac on freaking hydros, laid all the way back. But I don't want it, you know, sat straight up. So you're on a 15-minute ride and you feel like you're in one of them old school seats in middle school. They got you back straight as an arrow because they're worried about scoliosis. So you got the back one bolted in, and your front one doesn't line up. Like I said, normal. So what I'm just gonna do is drill a hole. We're gonna put it in the car. We're gonna bolt these front two on. Just, you know, it's all loose because, well, how are you gonna get to these back ones to bolt it in? There is enough space under the backside to get a wrench in there, but that sucks. It depends on what you want to do. We can bolt this down, and what we can do is we can take the side bolts off the seat itself, lift that out, bolt this whole thing down, bolt the whole thing back to the floor, and be done. There you go, seat's installed now. And you would think that the floor would just hold it down. Like I said, you gotta support the back. Yes, it feels rigid, but it's not. This has to be a 5-point mounting system. Let me show you quickly. This was welded to the cage on the driver's side when I bought the car. You can see it's just a piece of, you know, what was that, 3/4, 1 inch tube welded to 1/8 inch plate, molded. This works, and what you do is you weld that to your crossbar and then bolt it to your back, your seat bolts to the back of it. Put a cover on your seat. Don't leave this thing bare. It don't save enough weight for it to matter. Okay guys, you know, I would like to be a little bit more inside the car. Let me try to close the door here. Swing up bars are a nice feature. All right, roll down the window here. It's a little bit more straight up than I wanted, but I'm not uncomfortable. Well, I'm a little bit uncomfortable because the seat's a touch small for me. You can see how much space I have here. You know, this, I mean, it's kind of dark. You know, it's well below the height of the cage here. The only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get the padding for this bar, and I'm going to get the padding for this bar here. The back bar, it really don't matter because it's probably, you know, I'll probably get padding for this crossbar here. But that's it, guys. It really wasn't a hard install. Let me finish up this video with that. It was a little quickie here. I didn't show you the driver's side, obviously. Same steps, same procedure. It might be a little bit more involved because you want to be set right with your steering wheel, your shifter, and your pedals. An assistant would be probably helpful there. Not necessary. You know, it just might take a little bit more time. I hope you get out in the garage. I hope you crack a cold beer. Have a good night, guys.